bringing Israel to the world. This is IBN News.
With news of Israel, I'm Susan Michaels. The Human Rights Watch NGO this week accused the IDF of carrying out attacks that apparently amount to war crimes during the 11-day war in May between Israel and Hamas. The International Human Rights Organization issued its conclusions after investigating 3 Israeli airstrikes that it said killed 62 Palestinian civilians, saying there were no evident military targets in the vicinity of the attacks. The report also accused Palestinian factions of apparent war crimes by launching over 4,000 unguided rockets and mortars at Israel's population centers. Such attacks, it said, violate the prohibition against deliberate or indiscriminate attacks against civilians. The report, however, focused on Israeli actions during the fighting, and the group said it would issue a separate report on the actions of Hamas and other Palestinian groups in August. After spewing racist abuse at Arab Deputy Speaker Ahmed Tibi this week, the head of the extremist Jewish Power Party, Itamar Ben-Gvir, had to be forcefully removed from the Knesset. The incident began when Ben-Gvir went to the podium to speak at a debate on public health during the pandemic and refused to address Tibi, who was chairing in place of Speaker Miki Levy, as Sir. He then lashed out at Tibi for saying that Jews will not enter Al-Aqsa Mosque and calling him a terrorist who should be in parliament in Syria. Reports show Iran security forces had arrested a network of agents working for Israel and seized a catch of weapons it said were intended for use during recent unrest sparked by water shortages in the Islamic Republic. Iran frequently accuses enemies or rivals abroad, such as Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia, of trying to destabilize the country by stoking protests and violence. This week's announcement came after nearly 2 weeks of protests over water shortages, mostly in southern Iran, which have turned political and spread to other areas. And at least 50 faculty members at City University of New York have resigned or intend to resign after the faculty union adopted a statement critical of Israel and supportive of Hamas. I'm Susan Michaels.
IBN, Israel Broadcast Network.